Today on Radio Boat Anchor, I'm going to repair this vintage 1983 GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio. The GE 7-4612A is a vintage woodgrain digital alarm clock radio from the late 20th century featuring an AM/FM radio and a red LED display. It is powered by household current and includes a battery backup system. Offered from 1983 to 1988, this digital alarm clock radio is known for its retro style and reliability over decades of use. Purchased from Kmart in 1983, this particular example of the GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio has been helping my friend Mike wake up on time for junior high, high school, college, law school, and finally life in the business world. Mike's complaint was that there was a no sound condition, either from the buzzer alarm or its AM/FM radio functionality. He really wanted it back in working condition and was looking forward to another 40 years of service. The clock functionality of this radio was in working condition. The GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio is known for its simplicity in setting the time and alarm, which ingratiated itself among a following of loyal users. I was able to determine the year of manufacture by looking at the date code on the bottom of this alarm clock radio. Based on my research, the second number indicates the year of manufacture. The number 3 indicates that this alarm clock radio was manufactured in 1983. Disassembly. Time to disassemble this GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio for repair. Once turned over, 6 screws must be removed. Then the battery backup cover. The volume control knob must also be removed. It pulls straight off. The top cover of this alarm clock radio can now be removed. But first you must unwind the power cord from the back center standoff, which acts as a strain relief. Now the top cover can be removed. Look at the dust bunny on the speaker cone. This alarm clock radio features a ferrite loopstick antenna for AM radio reception. I suspect that these coils allow the AC cord to be used as the FM radio antenna. These look to be IF or intermediate frequency coils, which indicates this radio is of superhet or super heterodyne design. A superhet receiver converts any selected radio frequency to an intermediate frequency before being converted to AF or audio frequency. This design offers superior sensitivity, frequency stability, and selectivity. Time to remove the dust bunnies using a compressed air can. At this point, I had already discovered the issue. The phenolic back of the volume control potentiometer was cracked. Most likely this alarm clock radio had fallen off the nightstand and landed on its volume controlled knob. In order to remove the printed circuit board from the base, 2 screws must be removed. One here, and another under the speaker. Then the 9-volt battery clip used for the battery backup must be removed from the base. Here is a picture of the printed circuit board freed from the base. The function selector switch cover must be removed. In order to facilitate contact cleaning, the band switch selector cover must be removed as well. The tuning wheel was removed for cleaning. It is held in place to the variable capacitor used for tuning with 1 screw. The groove scroll in the tuning wheel guides the red tuning indicator across the front dial. You can see the shaft for the variable capacitor used for tuning through the hole in the printed circuit board. Repair. As mentioned, the phenolic back of the volume control potentiometer was cracked, which was the root cause of the no sound symptom. This potentiometer was desoldered from the printed circuit board. I had a problem finding a suitable replacement PC mount 100K potentiometer with audio taper. So I made the decision to repair the broken one. The broken volume control potentiometer was placed in a drill press vise for easy servicing. The metal tabs were then bent back, which allowed for the removal of the phenolic back. The phenolic back contains the potentiometer's resistive trace. It fell apart during handling. I superglued the phenolic back parts together. It adhered well given its porous structure. Then I filled in the broken resistive traces with graphite from a mechanical pencil. A scrap piece of plastic was superglued to the phenolic back in order to add strength. The phenolic back was then reinstalled onto the volume control potentiometer with the resistive trace down. The metal tabs were then bent back in place. The repaired volume control potentiometer was then resoldered back in place on the printed circuit board. I replaced the electrolytic capacitors circled in the picture on a printed circuit board. After 42 years, electrolytic capacitors lose their capacity as their electrolyte dries up. It is important to replace electrolytic capacitors with the same capacity and the same or higher working voltage. It is also important to observe their polarity when installing. All new electrolytic capacitors had their capacitance checked with my Mega 328 component tester prior to installation. Here is a picture of the printed circuit board with the new electrolytic capacitors installed. A total of 8 electrolytic capacitors were replaced. Here are the old ones. The function selector switch's contacts were cleaned using Deoxit D5. The switch was cycled several times through all of its positions after being treated to a spray of this contact cleaner. The band switch was treated to Deoxit D5 contact cleaner as well, then cycled through its 2 positions. Success! This alarm clock radio sound was once again working. Cleaning. All of the GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio's cabinet parts were carefully cleaned. First, the snooze alarm and time set buttons were removed from the top cover. They were held in place with 3 screws. In order to remove the red tuning indicator, the tuning indicator backing was removed. It was held in place with 2 screws. I used a toothbrush and water to clean all the cabinet parts. They were then left to dry on a chamois. Denatured alcohol on a Q-tip was used to clean the more stubborn areas. A drop of denatured alcohol dripped on the top cover's red stripe and caused it to smear. I was more careful using denatured alcohol around painted surfaces after this incident. 2 of the cabinet standoffs attached to the base were broken, probably due to a fall. First, the rear center standoff was superglued back in place. Then the front center standoff. In addition, the top cover had a broken standoff in the rear left-hand corner. It was superglued back in place as well. Reassembly. Time for reassembly. The red tuning indicator was installed. Then the tuning indicator backing. It was held in place with 2 screws. The tuning wheel was then reinstalled onto the variable capacitor shaft. It was held in place with 1 screw. The groove scroll in the tuning wheel guides the red tuning indicator across the front dial. The printed circuit board was reinstalled into the base. During reassembly, the black speaker wire broke. I had to strip the end and resolder it back in place. The 9-volt battery clip, used for battery backup, was reinserted back into the battery compartment. A dollop of E6000 adhesive was used to secure the 9-volt battery clip wiring in place. 2 screws secured the printed circuit board in place to the base. The power transformer, used to drop the line voltage to a lower suitable value used for transistor circuits, was reinstalled back into its well. Then the power cord was wrapped around the rear center standoff for strain relief. The function selector switch cover was then installed. Then the band selector switch cover was installed as well. The bezel was installed. The top cover was then turned upside down. Then the snooze alarm button was installed. It was held in place with 1 screw. The time set buttons were installed. 2 screws held them in place. The top cover was installed. It was held in place with 6 screws. And the battery backup cover was then installed. Finally, the volume control knob was installed. During reassembly, I discovered a chip missing from the base. Unfortunately, I didn't have the piece to superglue back in place. This GE7-4612A alarm clock radio's cabinet was treated to a coat of Armorall in order to restore the luster of the plastic. There is a fingerprint on the front bezel that I couldn't remove with Windex. I used Meguiar's motorcycle plastic cleaner to remove it. Operation. The 1983 GE7-4612A alarm clock radio has a loyal following even today due to its simplicity in setting the time and alarm. In order to set the time, set the function switch to off. Then alternatively, press the hour and minute buttons until the proper time is achieved. Even without battery backup, this alarm clock radio will retain the time during a power outage of 3 seconds or less. Set the function switch to on in order to listen to the radio. Volume, tuning, and band selector controls are located on the right side of this alarm clock radio. In order to set the alarm, set the function switch to off. While holding down the wake button, alternatively press down the hour and minute buttons until the proper alarm time is achieved. Set the function switch to music in order to wake up to the radio. Press the snooze button to cancel the alarm. Set the function switch to alarm in order to wake up to beeping. Once again, press the snooze button to cancel the alarm. Set the function switch to off in order to end all alarm activity. Conclusion. My friend Mike's 1983 GE 7-4612A alarm clock radio just needed a simple repair of the volume control and some cleaning in order to put it back into service after an unfortunate fall. Please like this post and subscribe to Radio Boat Anchor so that you're alerted to my future posts. Thank you.